Hey, how's it going? I'm Wild Mudkip, and welcome to my 1 to 61 crafting guide for Ironman. Now, I know 61 sounds like a very odd number to cut the guide off at, but 61 crafting is the key level for Ironman, which is a requirement for lunar diplomacy, which is the quest that unlocks the lunar spellbook. Once you get that quest done, you unlock the superglass make spell, which requires level 77 magic, which opens up a whole new world of charter ship crafting and giant seaweed, but that's not what I'm going to be getting into in this video. I've had a lot of people ask me for tips on how to get to 61 crafting, so I decided to make a step-by-step guide for Ironman to progress your account up to that point. I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but questing is probably the most important thing to do early on for Ironman, because if your skills are in the 60s or 70s, that 5k XP reward from a quest won't be as beneficial as it would have been if your skills were in the 20s or 30s. Because I'm sure you don't want to be killing cows and crafting cow hides, or picking and spinning flax. Or maybe you do, and there's nothing wrong with that, it's just not the most efficient way or really a fast way to go about training crafting. And my goal for today is to help you get to 61 crafting as fast as possible, and showing you a few different options that you may not have known about. I'm going to put a table of contents right here for just a few seconds, so pause right here if you want to see where to skip ahead to for information, but otherwise let's get into the guide. So let's get started with knocking out all these quests, and the first quests you're going to want to do are the free play quests, which are Sheepshare, Misthalin Mystery, and Goblin Diplomacy. And these 3 quests will get you to level 8 crafting and don't take too long at all. You don't have to do every quest I'm about to show you, but the more you do the better off you'll be, and if your goal is completionist or quest cape, you're going to have to get these done eventually, so there's no point putting them off until later. The quests you see on screen now all have no crafting requirement and have very bare minimum for other requirements. There's some beginning quests for Recipe for Disaster that you definitely want to get done and start working towards those Barrow's Gloves. Here's the full list of quests that give crafting XP, which I'll let scroll down on the screen, and I'll also link this list in the description as well. But I'll put some of the more notable ones that I would highly recommend doing on screen on the left, and within that list, probably the most notable ones I'd say are Elemental Workshop 1 and 2, which just give huge crafting XP rewards with such low requirements, and then also a Hand in the Sand, which does require 49 crafting, so you won't be able to get it done right away, but you pretty much need that quest done once you get a bit farther into the game for collecting buckets of sand, so keep that in the back of your head for later. Feel free to pick and choose any of those quests to get done, and again, the more the better. I'm not the biggest quest person myself, and speaking from personal experience, when I first made my hardcore, I put quests off for so long, but I still managed to get 40 crafting without even training crafting at all. 40 crafting for me was all solely done through quest rewards. Level 40 is only about 37k XP, and if someone like me who hates questing can get that hardly even trying, then you have no excuse either to just pick a few quests and get them done. So even on the lower end, you can definitely easily get level 40 crafting, and we're going to start the next section of the guide assuming you got level 40 crafting through questing. From here on, there's a few different ways to get to 61 crafting, and the first method I'm going to show you is molten glass. And to make molten glass, you need 2 things, soda ash and buckets of sand, both of which you can buy from charter ships. This is probably the cheapest way to train, as the soda ash and buckets of sand only cost 5 GP each, and in the end they'll get you 20 XP for using it in the furnace, as well as additional XP for actually crafting the glass. All you need for this is a bit of money, and the best place to buy these supplies at is at Port Khazard, which you can get to by using the fishing trawler teleport after getting 15 fishing, or by chartering any ship there. Also, if you have the Ring of Kyros activated after starting the Garden of Tranquility quest, you can save a bit of GP if you find yourself hopping from port to port. There's a few other ports with close banks which also work, but this is the best place to do it if possible, as long as the worlds aren't sold out. So with this method, you can see what I'm doing, but you just hop around worlds buying as much soda ash and buckets of sand as possible, and then depositing them into the deposit box once you have full inventory. If you're really struggling to get soda ash, you could buy seaweed and then use them on the range to get soda ash, but you don't get any XP from that, so you're probably better off spending your time hopping worlds to just find more supplies that way. I also want to show you how to set up your bank to deposit all, so that you can press deposit all on the deposit box without depositing your cash stack. That's a lot of deposits. Okay, so you're going to take your whole cash stack out of the bank and then remove the placeholder, and then click on this icon right here in the top right, and that'll take you to the bank options. Within that menu, press the fill button, and that'll fill up your bank with bank fillers, so that way your bank will be full and you won't be able to deposit any items that you don't have placeholders for, and that's it, you're all set. So you can keep running back and forth for however much molten glass you need before we move on to the next step here, and I will show you how to calculate how much molten glass you need in just a minute. And then one last thing before you leave here is make sure you buy a glass blowing pipe, it's only 5 GP. Once you get all the supplies that you need, you're going to go over to the Edgeville Bank, which is the closest furnace to a bank in the game, and you're going to withdraw 14 soda ash and 14 buckets of sand from the bank each trip, and I'll show you the best way to set this up. So in the bank, go down to the quantity and then right click X to set a custom quantity and set that to 14. That means that way you can left click to withdraw 14 when you have the X selected, and that'll just save you a couple clicks per trip. Then all you've got to do is click on the furnace and then press space to start making the inventory, and you'll get 20 XP per each pair, which is 280 XP per inventory. Once you're done making all the molten glass, you're going to want to blow them into the highest thing you can make. When you get to level 49, not everyone moves onto lantern lenses, and some people argue that unpowered orbs might be better for if you start making battle staves, but you can decide for yourself what your goals and plans are. But assuming you're doing this process, add 20 XP onto each of these. So for example, if you're making unpowered orbs, you're essentially getting 72.5 XP for this process, and you can use that number to calculate how much soda ash and sand you need to buy based on the XP till your goal level. And yeah, once you start blowing the glass, you're going to take your glass blowing pipe out that you bought at the charter ships, make a bank filler for it once again, and then just kick back and chill the whole time. The main reason for getting 61 crafting is so that you can make molten glass without the furnace, which saves a lot of time and effort, but I'm not going to be getting into that in this video. I did make a charter ship guide a while back though, which I'll link down below in the description if you're curious on how that works. And now we're going to get into the second half of this guide, which involves gold and silver, and while you could do motherload for gold or just mine silver rocks, it's much more efficient to buy all the supplies at the blast furnace, so it does help to have a decent amount of cash to begin with. This isn't a money making guide, but a lot of ways people get GP early on for Ironman might include thieving Arty Knights, doing agility pyramid, training fire making at the Winter Frog, or maybe even alching Eggman cookies from Willy God Wars. There's plenty of ways to make money, and you're much better off starting with a bit of cash and then buying the ores, unless you want to grind that motherload forever for thousands of gold ores. But anyways, in order to get to the blast furnace, you're going to have started the giant dwarf quest to get there, and the best ways to get there are either taking the minecart from the GE, or by using the minigames to teleport to blast furnace, which you can use only after you've been to Keldrum before. If you're taking the minecart, it's a really short run from where it drops you off, and you can follow the path I'm taking there on screen now. Once you get down there, you can see there's a bank chest, and you'll also see Orden nearby who sells the ores, and based on what method you choose, you're going to want to either buy gold or silver ores from him and run back and forth to the bank chest to deposit them. I'll put the prices up on screen now for you to take a look at, but this is what the prices start at, and keep in mind the prices do go up dramatically after each ore you buy. So most people hop worlds after 1 or 2 inventories of buying the ore depending on preference, and I'm going to assume that you're at an early stage in the game if you're watching this guide, so you're probably going to want to hop worlds after each inventory to save as much money as possible. It definitely helps to have graceful, and you probably don't have staminas yet, so the best practice is to walk to the bank when your inventory is full and you weigh a lot, and then run back to Orden when your inventory is empty, so that way you can preserve run. If you decide to go with gold, you definitely want to have the goldsmith gauntlets, which you get from completing the family crest quest, and that increases the smithing XP from smelting gold from 22.5 XP to 56.2 XP. And also keep in mind that you'll need 40 smithing to smelt gold bars versus only 20 smithing for silver bars, although silver bars only give 13.7 smithing XP each, but this guide isn't meant for smithing anyways, it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. After you finish up buying all the ores you need, you're going to head back to Edgeville and smelt all your bars. And you could use the blast furnace to get them all smelted way faster, but again, you're probably at an early stage in the account and probably don't have the GP to spare right now. So smelt all your bars while you watch Netflix or YouTube or play a second account or whatever you do. And when you're done, you're going to have a bunch of bars, and that's where the crafting XP is going to come from. I'll break it down between gold and silver so you can decide what you think is best for your account, and starting with the silver bars, here's the 4 things you should be making. Starting with the tiara, you might want to make a few of these just to have for rune crafting in the future, and although it gives a tiny bit more XP than the others, I wouldn't recommend doing these because they don't provide much benefit to your account beyond that. And then for the silver sickle, you need 1 for the nature spirit quest, but besides that, there's no real use for making these. And I'd recommend sticking between one of these last 2 ones. So for the silver bolts, you can make 1 bar into 10 silver bolts unfinished, which if you have 43 fletching, you'll get 25 fletching XP per 10 bolts, which can be a nice little boost at those lower levels, especially for making thousands of these. And then the last one is unstrung symbols, and if you make these, they'll probably sit in your bank for a while until you have 80 magic for the string jewelry spell. It's a little bit costly, but it's a very AFK way of training magic if that's the way you prefer to play. And now onto the 2 options I'd recommend doing if you decide to go with gold. Starting with gold bracelets, you'll get slightly less XP than making gold amulets, but you can alch these right away for 330 GP, which means you could buy the nature runes and still profit, although the whole process of buying the ores themselves and then smithing them and then making that into jewelry will still cost you money, but being able to alch those for a decent amount of GP will minimize the losses. And for the gold amulets, you get a bit more crafting XP, but these only alch for 210 GP each, which means buying the nature runes and alching will about break even with the cost of the nature runes. But with these, you can save them once again for when you unlock the string jewelry spell at 80 magic if you want some AFK magic XP way later on, although the strung amulets will still alch for the same price as the unstrung ones at 210 GP. Once you figure out what you want to craft, head over to Al-Kharid because you're going to need a mold for whatever you're making, which you can buy for very cheap at the crafting shop. Every one of the things I listed before has the corresponding mold sold here, so if you're making a few different types of things, you might as well stock up on all different kinds while you're here anyways. After that, head back to the furnace in Edgeville, withdraw your mold and 27 bars, and then let your character do all the hard work while you slowly creep towards the Holy Land that is 61 crafting. Okay, so if I missed anything, I'll update the description of this video with updated information, and then also heart any comments that give updated information as well, so make sure you look out for that. But I hope this guide helped you out, and I'm new to making guides, so any feedback is appreciated, and if you have any ideas for Ironman guides that you'd like to see in the future, then please let me know in the comments. And if you want to stay up to date for future videos, then please consider subscribing to the channel, it really does help out a lot. But with that being said, that is all for the video, so thank you very much for watching. I hope it helped you out in one way or another, and I hope that you have a great day.